My name is Jeff Hoagland. I'm joined here with my co-commentator, Nick Shirillo. We're going to be bringing you coverage live for the third round of the Hoaglandia Open here today. We have 126 players competing in Historic with Amonkhet Remastered cards all day. This event, of course, is sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com, so shout out to them for providing our wonderful prizes as well as the Open 5 discount code all day today. It's good for a discount on your double master singles there. We're heading on down into our feature match area here, where we've got Grapple playing Kethis combo versus Nifty, who is playing what looks to be a ramp deck. Probably not Field of the Dead here, though. Looks like we've got Lotus Fields and Kiora Behemoth Beckoners.
That is a combo.
That is.
Because you see Lotus Field taps for 3 mana, and then Kiora untaps it for 3 more mana.
Yep. Lots and lots of ramp. And Lotus Field, I would assume there's no Field of the Dead here because Lotus Field notably not good at giving you extra lands in play.
Yeah, that is not a combo. So it's interesting. I think it's going to be interesting to see here if the field deck, or if the ramp deck is going to have enough interaction to stop the combo elements of Grapple here.
And we
because
see
Grapple isn't going to have to win through the board.
And as far as combo elements go, Grapple's start is pretty slow here, right? We're on turn 3 and they've not developed at all, right? Both the first few turns here have been spent passing back and forth. And I think part of that too is definitely these players know the matchup that they're playing, so they know that they're not under pressure to have fast starts.
Well, you say they're not under pressure to have a fast start, but this start is pretty fast. Next turn, Nifty is going to have 7 mana plus the Nissa, which is, I'm just going to say more.
Well, Nissa, okay, so Nissa technically untaps the Lotus Field again, and I guess it retains hexproof, so turning Lotus Field into a creature is probably not a big deal.
Yeah. Also this is a Kethis. This is a Kethis with Kethis plus Diligent Excavator is the combo. So
it's the combo. It's the combo assuming that your graveyard fills up with enough things in it, and so far they don't have very much in Grapple's bin, right?
Well, we have 6 things in the bin so far, plus this Uro. And you need another 2 off the Kethis.
Notably, did you see Mox Embers hit the bin? Because that's kind of the key card to get the Kethis combo going. It means
I did not.
Okay, so
we got a Chromatic Sphere.
We do have a Chromatic Sphere.
Back with Emery.
Oh, and there's a Mox. Okay, so the Mox here could mean that we see them get going.
Yeah, usually they need 2 Mox in order to effectively combo off. The deal is the Mox in sacrifice each other due to the legend rule, and that's what really allows you to chain together. Notably, they don't have very many legends.
Yep, and
so it's possible that's a bottleneck here.
The important thing to note here too is that while the Kethis combo is not infinite, it is sufficiently finite, generally speaking. So you hit a critical mass of legendaries in your bin, along with cards like Mox Amber in play to kind of loop through to self-mill to then eventually win the game with 4 mana Jace.
Right. There are some situations if your opponent is playing Tormod's Crypts and exile a significant part of your graveyard earlier in the game that you might not have enough gas to go off. But using just your full deck, you can very consistently get to mill 300 cards if that was something you theoretically needed to do. And here
we see Emery's looping now too here, which is a way to generate a lot of cards to flip over because Emery cast triggers Diligent Excavator, and then it comes into play and mills 4 more. A little bit unfortunate on Grapple's side here. They still have failed to find a second Mox, which is really what they're looking for at this point. I think if they find second Mox, they should probably be good to go.
Yeah, if they find second Mox off this Emery, I don't want to say it's deterministic, but I would concede if I was the opponent. I'll put it that way. But if they miss, and the problem is, even if they miss, it doesn't.
Yes, even though there's no Mox here, Grapple has to pass the turn. But what is Nifty going to do on their turn, right? It's not like Nifty's untapping and dealing 22.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of like a nightmare matchup for the ramp deck, right? Like the ramp deck's just hoping that like it can ignore the opponent and then whatever it's doing is going to be good enough. And these kind of combo decks, like what Grapple's playing in these non-rotating formats, kind of serve to make it so the ramp decks that have kind of taken over standard aren't actually very powerful in these older, bigger formats because what they're doing in their linear plan isn't good against people who aren't playing fair, generally speaking.
And um, it's a point in favor of the green white deck that we saw earlier, right? If Nifty has something like approach, then maybe they're able to
Race back with their own combo.
right.
Or even Wrath of God, right? Because like grapple
Yeah.
side of the board, like they care about having creatures in play. So like even the green white ramp deck having Wrath to clean up the Diligent Excavators and Kethis for a turn or two is helpful and meaningful interaction.
Emery is pretty big game against the Wrath plan. You know, when this deck was in standard, if they didn't have a Diligent Excavator on the board, it was really hard to gain traction. But here, if you have a Kethis in hand, you can play that, bring back Emery's and Mox Ambers, and that's basically your entire graveyard. So it'll be interesting to see next game what interactive elements Nifty has brought to the table, right? Because I think there are definitely good cards in this matchup that they can use uh, to try to like lock them out while you beat down with your 5/5 and 6/6s. Grafdigger's Cage specifically is a pretty big one that used to be not very good because your opponent would just mill over a Teferi, recast a Teferi, bounce your Grafdigger's Cage, kill you because the cage didn't stop Teferi from coming in from the graveyard. But that card's banned now.
Yep.
So
So
there's a lot more counterplay.
there's a second Mox Saber, and Grapple's
I think that's just game.
Yeah, Grapple's graveyard is super stocked here. So I would assume that the second Mox means that we're, especially with a full set of lands to cast lots of legendary spells. Like there's an Ashiok that just flipped over too. So I don't have an exact count on Grapple's deck, but I imagine that it's going to flip into the bin here. And if you're Grapple, you see a good game there offered. I would assume that they know. Again, deck lists are heads up, so I would bet that the Simic Ramp deck does not have any interaction here on their turn. Yeah, looks like actual run. There's like
there's just
Ugin and Ulamog. There's 3 Ugin and 1 Ulamog in the main deck that are interaction.
and to be fair, if this Ugin, if Nifty had the Ugin earlier, that might have been good enough.
Sure.
Right? Even if late as last turn, Ugin wiping this board, Grapple didn't really have anything left in their hand. I guess they maybe had this one Kethis I don't quite remember. But all right, so what do we got over here?
So we have some Scavenging Oozes that like just very quickly got into Nifty's deck. That's easily their best card here against and you know, you mentioned that Teferi, who we tore up at the beginning of the stream, losing that in Kethis actually makes the Kethis deck a lot weaker to these various hate pieces, right? Because before you just incidentally had this card that like you wanted to play anyways, it protected you from instant speed interaction, it bounced permanent based hate, and now if you're on Grapple side, you need things like Trophy to kill these Scoozes, otherwise you're just going to sit on the table and make it so you can't combo.
So you could play 4-mana Vraska. We see that in the sideboard as a catch-all. It's a similar thing. Obviously, a much worse card than Teferi, but there is plenty of room to be worse than Teferi, but still be good.
Sure. Yep. And I wonder, we don't see them reaching for the trophies here. And again, deck lists are heads up. So if we're on Grapple side, I guess you're just hoping either they don't have Scavenging Ooze, or if they do, that you're going to find one of your 2 copies of Vraska to deal with it.
Yeah, because one of the big pluses for this ramp deck is if you have a Scavenging Ooze, you have enough mana. There's plenty of green to eat everything they ever could possibly put in there, and they need the Kethis deck needs a critical mass stuff in the graveyard in order to combo off. They can't just put the good cards. They also need stuff to sacrifice to the Kethis ability.
On the on our ramp player side of the board here, we see is that a misclick? We put Hinterland Harbor into play instead of a Lotus Field that turn.
Feels like a misclick, but
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, is there something that I'm missing here? Because like we could
I'm not
have.
sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I must be missing something.
Notably, grapple. So maybe this was the plan. They wanted to get a land and then be able to explore this turn, and maybe.
Sure.
But I guess they could have. They could have done that anyway.
One one
Yeah, I don't know.
int- one interesting sequencing decision on Nifty's side of the board is we'll note that Nifty prioritized using the growth spirals before explorers, even though growth spiral
Yep.
is an instant. And the reason for this, I assume, would be because Lotus Field only makes one color of mana, so a tapped Lotus Field can cast an explorer, but it cannot cast a growth spiral. So seeing a little bit of sequencing there that matters.
Right, and there are some decks that really care about um, the instant speed. Being able to hold up interaction, then grow spiral if your opponent doesn't do anything. Notably, like Team Marek in Standard before it got banned was a big user of that. But in this deck, most things are sorcery speed. It's not super important. Better to just get the harder to cast spell out of the way first, so that it's more easy to slot explore into your curve later.
Yep. And now, if
And
you're on Nifty's side here, do you just like play the Scavenging Ooze and like eat the graveyard?
I think that's probably good.
It's
Um,
interesting again here. We see Nifty just skipping a land drop, like not playing the Lotus Field out and sacrificing their two basics there, which
yeah,
feels strange. Which feels strange to me with the Ugin in hand, especially.
I'm not sure what they're playing around. Yeah.
I guess they just want the flexibility on their
Is
mana.
there Alpine Moon in Grapple's deck? There's not, right? They don't even have the colors for it.
No, yeah, correct. Yeah, I don't think there's any hate cards that play around that plays around. It must just be because they want the flexibility on the basics to make two different colors. They're
Yeah, I guess so.
they're valuing that over getting their lands into play faster in the ramp deck.
So notably, Grapple has Nebraska here to check the Scavenging Ooze. They could not play it this turn because the only land they started with was a Triome.
Okay.
But they're going to be able to slam it next turn and deal with the Scoos. But then
They're gonna have an empty
able.
graveyard. They're gonna have an empty graveyard at that point, right? So like they'll have a
They,
risk.
yeah, but they have the Devil's Excavator, so they're definitely going to be able to try to rebuild with Emery also.
So we have Nissa here, and Nissa's gonna start applying a good deal of pressure. And again, like we're committing to like untapping this forest, which to me says, okay, so we're not playing Lotus Field again this turn, which is interesting. I feel like I'd want to be working towards Ugin.
Yeah, so I think if Nifty is able to counter the Nebraska with an Ugin, they're in a very good spot. But if they're not able to do that,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I guess here the Nissa can pressure Nebraska, right? 1/3s don't do a great job of blocking 3/3s. If you're eating up that part of the board, then that's probably similarly good, right?
Yep. All right. Yeah, so here's the Scoos getting eaten as expected.
Lotus Field isn't legendary, right? That's the whole thing with the Thespian stage deck and Pioneer. Is
Yes,
you
Lotus Field is not legendary, correct. Yeah. So there's
once you
not
have
there's not a legendary reason to hold it back. The Kethis deck has one Jace Wielder of Mysteries, and that's it.
well, so you can mill your opponent with the
You
Devil's
can you can
Excavator.
you can mill your opponent, but it's harder because like if you're milling your opponent, your Emrys can't be a part of how your mill is mixing in and out.
Yes. You need the excavator on board. If you have it on board, it's usually fairly trivial to do.
Yep.
Um, but if you don't have the Devil's Excavator, it's harder to do from hand. You have to have more of a battlefield presence, which Eugene here got the
Okay.
nice.
And Ugin's basically the tool they need to clean this game up, right? And now you have to
Yeah, I
decide.
expect a -4 here.
Yeah, I would minus for it. Looks like they're thinking about shooting something. Yeah, I don't know if I'm a fan of that. I feel like you're. I guess you leave the threat of Ugin minusing later, but like it would still be at 3, right? And still threaten to minus on things. I don't know.
Also, you're threatening to minus on the stuff that's already on board, right? Oh wait, is Chromatic Sphere the thing we draw the card when it's sacrificed, or is it the one? Chromatic. Okay. So if you sacrifice chromatic field of Vraska, you don't draw a card.
Correct.
Is
Yeah,
is what I would
that's
say.
chromatic star.
Right.
Sphere was a strange one to put into this format. I was kind of surprised when I saw that on the list of cards of Jumpstart that got through. Because like
Yeah.
there was a selection of Jumpstart cards. They were like, okay, no, we're not putting these in the format. And then Chromatic Sphere was on there. And I feel like in Constructed, Chromatic Sphere basically never goes in anything particularly fair.
Yeah, and I saw someone on Twitter was like, chromatic field only sort of works within the rules engine of Magic anyway. Like it's like a mana ability that also draws a card, so you can't respond to it. It's very strange.
Yep. So Magic Arena things. There was actually a bug when that card first was added to the platform where you could make mana and draw a card off the top of your deck and then undo the mana and the draw. So you could like constantly check to see what the top card of your deck was.
That would make me, okay. Well, I guess now we're exiling.
Okay.
I don't really know what changed, but whatever. It's probably still good.
I think at this point you're just looking to clear the board out. Yeah, I agree. I think I would have probably cleared a turn sooner, but all things considered, I feel like this game kind of went exactly how you want a game to go from Nifty's side of the board. Like we had Scavenging Ooze early to slow the initial combo, and then we curved that into Ugin, so that way.
No. Okay.
So like,
if there was a Kethis, that might have been a way to get. This might be a way to get back in the game, actually.
No, I don't think so. Right, the Ugin's still at 5.
No, like to win.
Oh, from here? No, I don't think so.
You go because Tashar reanimates something every time you cast an historic spell, right?
Sure.
Now you have. Okay, I guess not. I guess you were short. Yeah, you had to get.
Yeah, the fact that the Skoos hammered their resources so hard early was just a really, really big deal.
I feel like there was a chance if. Oh no! It was 1 minute short. Never mind. I don't know. The Kethis deck can win out of some truly nonsense board positions where you just think, there's no way. All right, so
players look pretty happy with their sideboard plans very quickly, getting back into a third game here.
Yep. And I think Nifty is just going to hope they have the Skoos. If they have the Skoos, I think they're in a good spot. If they don't have the Skoos, it's going to be very hard for them.
Yep. See opening hands here. Probably a mulligan on the one lander on the Kethis side. Looks reasonable on Nifty's side.
So good at the hit, but I think like they don't even have blue mana.
Wow, this hand is really good for grapple now.
Yep. And then hand is also good for Nifty. You got the early explore.
The Nifty's hand has potential, but if it doesn't find a Scavenging Ooze and Grapple's hand plays out well, I think Nifty's going to be too slow.
Yeah, I think Nifty's hand, if you believe your deck, like if you don't keep this hand, you're saying I'm hard mulliganing to Scavenging Ooze. Sure. I will go to like one card, and if that one card is Scavenging Ooze, I will keep it. Because otherwise, I think this hand is just too. It's too much of Nifty's plan itself.
Sure. And again, we see Nifty. I must be missing some type of aspect of Nifty's deck, right? Because they're so alive in the tournament. They've been winning matches of Magic. For people that are just joining us, our tournament is double elimination. So throughout the course of the entire day, all the matches we playing, these people are all still alive to win the tournament. I feel like my gut is I want to just be like getting Lotus Field into play as quickly as possible, and that's definitely not what Nifty's been doing.
Nifty does not agree, and I'm not entirely sure why.
I guess it's about a wash this turn, getting the Lotus Field out now as opposed to a turn earlier. The Luris seems very good on Grapple's side of the table. Going to generate a lot of card advantage, make up for that mulligan here a little bit.
Yep. Luris, definite. We have 5. So Nifty is 2 turns away from Ugin.
Yep.
And I think what we're going to see here is if is Grapple kind of has to win the game on the next turn, and I think they have a decent chance of doing it. But I think if they don't do it, they're just going to
How do they
get
get
their.
start? How do they get started here? They need okay. So they have Laz. So
So you have
you start with Laz copy Kethis, right? Is step one
yeah.
because Luris lets you cast Laz and then Laz can copy Kethis, and then like you have to hope to mill a Mox over on the in between. I don't think I saw a Mox there in Grapple's Bin.
Yeah, I didn't see a Mox either. This deck is very complicated, and
Yeah.
Grapple's playing it very quickly, which
Yep.
means their brain is quite large.
Yep. They've got a lot of games logged with it almost assuredly. I wouldn't be surprised if we see QR. Actually, kind of surprised to not see QR come down there. I feel like even if Kiora could die in combat,
Because you
you're
can
like,
just untap the forest, right?
oh yeah, like you get to make a blocker too. Yeah, I think I would have probably played the Kiora there. Okay, and we'll see this kind of moment of truth here, looking for that.
I mean, you get 5 mills here.
All right, there's Mox, so we could go from here. Yeah, and there's another mill.
I I would expect this to be game.
Yeah, I would expect. I agree. I expect the game to be done from here.
Yeah, it looks like Grapple is just checking out, making sure. You really want to make sure you have it before you start going. Otherwise, you can get into some awkward situations. Okay, and they just want to get a little bit of extra mill first, starting with the Emery. I like that.
Yeah, because
Make sure
remember,
that
make sure you get the most castable things when you activate your Kethis for the first time. Because remember, Kethis' activation isn't retroactive, so whatever is in the bin gains the cast ability, and then if you add more later, you're gonna have to activate Kethis again, costing you 2 more cards out of the bin.
Kethis is really cool. I'm not a fan of how many clicks this combo takes, but I really like that it is unique in a way that I feel is very magic.
Yep. So
Yeah.
for people that are new to Historic or specifically the Kethis combo, what's basically going to happen here now is with the Diligent Excavators in play, these cards mill, grapple, 2 cards every time a legendary spell gets cast, and they're going to cast Mox Ambers, which kill the other Mox Amber due to the legendary rule. They're going to cast Emerys, which kills the other Emery due to the legendary rule, and they're going to flip the entirety of their own deck into their bin, which will then allow them to cast Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, and win the game with Jace's activated ability plus the static decks. Is it Wielder Mysteries? It is Wielder Mysteries. Look at that. I got the right Jace. And now, again, the thing to remember is while this deck does flip over a lot of things, it's not technically infinite, right? It's just sufficiently large enough finite. So you activate to push on through here and mill through.
Yep.
And again, I think this kind of played out the way I expected it to. When we saw in the early turns on Nifty's hand, I thought, well, okay, they're set up to get reasonably well started, but at the same time, without that early scavenging ooze like we saw in the second game that they were able to win, Ugin just isn't fast enough, right? Like the turn 4 or turn 5 Ugin, the Kethis deck is just going to kill you before that happens.
It would have been fast enough on the play. So
sure.
it's sort of unfortunate that they got lucky and drew the scoos in the matchup in the game where it mattered less, I think.
Okay. All right. So, in the belief of as little downtime as possible, we're going to roll right on into our time-shifted feature match here today. Let's go ahead and grab that up.